Got the mic.
Yo, yo, welcome back to another episode. Anybody want to hear a joke?
Yes.
So, why does 10 plus 10 equals 11 plus 11?
Why does it?
Yes, what does 10 plus 10 equal 11 plus 11?
I have no idea. Blake?
Why?
So, 10 plus 10 is equal to 11 plus 11 is 22.
Maybe we'll start a new tradition and you can kick it off with a dad joke or something like that if you want to.
I like a joke. So,
All right.
so back to what we're doing. Book 29 today.
I respect it.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. So the book today is, well, I'll just give you a quick description before I share my screen. The book today is this book called Why Fish Don't Exist. It was a really interesting book. I actually would highly recommend this one. I don't know if I put it in like my top 15, but it was one of those books where I would read it again. Like, it was good. It was a good combo of like history plus a personal kind of story about loss and love, and weaved it all together with a real historical figure as well as her own personal struggle. And it was interesting. So the book itself is about, the main character is David Starr Jordan, who's a real person. He's the first president of Stanford University. And Blake, I was just telling you through this, he actually was the president of IU, Indiana University, before he became the first president of Stanford University. They recruited, his name's David Starr Jordan. I'm guessing that's what Jordan Avenue is.
That makes sense.
What's that?
Jordan Avenue, Jordan Hall.
Yeah. I think it's probably the Jordan name is David Starr Jordan. Anyway, so I think he was from Indiana, which, if nobody knows this, we're in Indiana, or this is two of us are. Blake and I are, and Trieu's in Houston. David Starr Jordan, this guy is like the world's foremost expert on taxonomy for fishes. This was like his passion. When he went to Stanford, he continued on with that practice, and they named and tagged and categorized like over a fifth of the fish in the world. That was his thing, right? He was a fish taxonomist. He would travel around, go explore new places with his team, and they would go find them, bring them back, label them, categorize them, taxonomy for fishes. The story, the author, her name is Lulu Miller. Yeah, Lulu Miller. She heard this story about David Starr Jordan and how he lost all of his fish multiple times throughout her course of her life. And she really liked the idea of like, man, why did this guy keep relabeling all these fish and refining them again and reorganizing it? Like, what was this dude's obsession? So she got obsessed with this guy. As she was researching him and writing a story about him, she weaved in her own personal struggles in her own life of her trying to fit in herself and categorize things herself. At the end of the day, the moral of the story is, so David Starr Jordan spent his entire life trying to label and categorize fish. And 100 years later, the reason the book is called Why Fish Don't Exist is because apparently today, modern scientists are actually saying that the term fish doesn't exist anymore. Like, it's too broad of a categorization. Like whales are more like mammals than they are like this or whatever. So like the term fish doesn't exist anymore. This guy spent his entire life work labeling and ordering and putting hierarchy around stuff and trying to create this taxonomy. And then, 100 years later, like, fish doesn't exist anymore. So it's kind of like an open-ended question about, labeling, right? And we put so much stress and we're so obsessed as humans of trying to put order and consistency and hierarchy and labeling everything. And really, at the end of the day, it could change in a heartbeat, or our definitions change, our culture changes, whatever, and what happens down the road, kind of thing. So my reflection, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, was taking that kind of just general thought of the book Why Fish Don't Exist, and the title of this book, or the title of this reflection, is don't anchor your purpose on things or labels. So in thinking about David Starr Jordan, I had the idea of like, if he were to come back today, what would he think about his life's work, of all this work that he did of labeling and organizing and hierarchy, building all these fish and going to explore them. And my thought is, well, if his values in his life were things like going to different places, new places in the world with his friends to discover new things, or adventure, or research, or discovering new things, or learning new stuff, I think he'd be pretty proud to say that, hey, I discovered a whole lot of whatever we discovered and had a great time doing it. And he was able to live his values. However, if he really anchored his values on hierarchy and being right and labeling things properly and making sure that other people, was documented for the future, I think he'd probably be devastated to know that fish don't exist anymore, kind of thing. So my general take around, as this whole journey is about values and balance and purpose is, don't anchor your purpose to things or labels. Values are great because they can morph and change with time. They're timeless principles. They're timeless things that can change and adapt over time, and they withstand the test of time, from Jesus's time to now. I mean, it doesn't, giving is giving, and love is love, and balance is balance, whatever it may be. So our universe runs on these timeless values of principles and values, and labels and things aren't the way the universe runs. That's how humans think, and we want to label everything, but anchor your purpose to your values, and I think you'll be happy in the long run. So that was my general thought. Turn it over to you guys for your take. A, what do you think about the book? Do you think it's an interesting book? And B, would you read it? And then C, what are your thoughts on the reflection?
Trieu, you go first.
Okay, so I think the book is interesting and I would read it just because it would give me a different perspective, another lens to look through. I'd agree with you in terms of things don't last, especially when you use your point of reference, you're anchored on something that is going to be so easily removed, like the labeling of the fish, right, or the naming of something.
Right.
I would want to go further than that and say even achievements, even value, they don't last.
Right.
So it's going to be contradicting what you said, because the reason for that is, I think, because we are a speck in the universe and a blip in the timeline. And so whatever we do, regardless how big or small, it probably won't survive the test of time.
Yeah, I agree.
So for me, live your value, live the way you think. For example, if I were to do something, I would to be, let's create some kind of company, or I'm going to help somebody with mentoring in programming. The act of doing it is a reward in itself. And that's what I'm looking for, not the reward of that person repay me back, because that is not going to last. But because I'm able to get reward immediately by doing the thing, I'm happy. I have the emotion of happiness in that moment. I'm not counting on the blessing that comes back to me, because I'm already enjoying the thing that I'm doing. That is the payment enough. That's the reason why I'm doing it in the first place. So anchoring on that aspect versus anything else. It could be labeling, which is very, very ephemeral. 100 years from now, people are not going to remember me. 1,000 years from now, people are not going to remember me. So if I'm anchoring on that aspect of the reason why I do things, then to me, I'm not going to be, if I were to wake up one day from my slumber at a million years from now and see my works is gone, I'll be sad. But if I anchor on the fact that I already get the joy of doing it,
right,
then regardless of what happens to it, I had a reason, and a reason was still valid.
Yeah, you already consumed it, and you enjoyed what you consumed. Yeah.
Right, because in that moment when I'm doing it, I'm receiving the feeling of good. That's the reason why I'm doing it in the first place.
That's what I said. If his purpose and his values were for exploration and adventure and experiencing the world with his friends, I think he'd be ecstatic about his life when he came back.
Exactly. So if he looked at it from that perspective and anchor on that, regardless of whether they change it to fish or whatever, it doesn't affect him at all.
Yeah, agreed. What do you think, Blake?
I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, I understand it all. It's just, to me, I can't for some reason get over how sad it would be to be so passionate about something.
Well, that's the key. You have to understand what you're anchoring on. If you anchor in the wrong perspective, you will feel sad. If you say, this is what I'm doing for the sake of the adventure, the thrill of finding new fish for myself, regardless of what happens to it, it's still worth the effort.
I gather what you're saying. I'm just thinking, I agree with what you're saying 100%. I'm just thinking, just for some, I don't know why, it just impacts me, just the sadness of something was so important. I mean, it's interesting that people just want to be remembered. They want to be able to live forever. They want to, yeah, be, and first thing, you mentioned, we're just, I don't know how you put it, but I was thinking of the part next to the Bible. I think it says where it's like your life, you're a vapor, basically, it's you're here and you're gone, and that's all it is. And yeah, you're right. It should be about what you do while you're here, the impact you make, and kind of the butterfly effect of what you do while you're on Earth, not that you remember forever, because we're all going to be forgotten. But for some reason, it just makes me sad to think about your passion. Like you're
So
like,
what do you think? What do you think makes you sad though?
oh, I think it's the empathy of this guy saw this as being so important. And
but what did he think was important? Is the we don't know the answer to that because he's not here. Like, was it really important for him to just go explore and be adventurous and was it important? I don't know what his purpose was here. I mean, maybe it was something, deep inside. I mean, he lost a couple of kids like along this journey. Like, I don't know what was driving the guy to want to do what he was doing. I have a suspicion, just hearing the story, that he was anchored by what you're talking about, Blake, of an obsession of categorizing and labeling things and discovering new fish so he could, bring them to the world. But I mean, yeah. If he was doing these things for other reasons, of things that he just happened to value in his life, like I don't feel sorry for him at all. I feel happy for him. Like, that was great. He spent a life of, doing what he wanted to.
And that's kind of where this part of this feeling of sadness comes from, because it's kind of like, well, yeah, why? I guess there's that whole I don't know why he did what he did, and kind of trying to understand it and why he viewed this. Again, was it to be remembered? Was it because he felt like this was something that was very important, that was going to help other people and be used, and then just kind of everybody just shat on it a little bit, and it's like, no, this fish, there aren't fish don't exist. I mean, I would feel like I think about if I would, in the future, I thought like, how is what I've done impact? And everybody just kind of said, I just, that's where I guess the sadness kind of feeling comes from is.
Yeah. Well, that's the reality though. I mean, nothing matters, because you can say, I can build this grand bridge, or even I can even build a new planet. A million years from now, somebody take that and say, this is the Blake planet. And then a million years from now, somebody decide, hey, let's change the name to something else. So it's about living for yourself, right? Because if you live to say, I'm going to do this so I can pass this on to some generations, then yeah, you're going to feel sad, because it's for naught. But if you say, I get to do this, I get to enjoy, that then identifying fishes and labeling it, and, get my joy out of just the fact of doing it, then you live a fulfilled life. And that is the point of this.
I was trying to pull up this quote from Bird by Bird, a book that I just finished a couple of weeks ago. It was basically like, if you need a gold medal to tell you your worth about something, or for other people to remember it, you're going to be lost. You're going to be lost as soon as, like, you have to first discover yourself first. It's the gold medal is understanding what you care about, I guess, and what makes you happy. If you need other people to validate that, or you need some medal or something along those lines, or you need people to tell you that what you did was worthwhile, then you've already lost anyway. I feel like that's kind of what you're alluding to, Blake, is you're like, this guy did good work. People valued what he did, at least at the time. And now you're saying that value no longer is there. But once again, if you care about what other people think and what other people value, then you're already lost. I mean,
yeah, you're on the wrong path already. Right. And so that's going to give you the pain in your head, in your mind, because, I mean, you think about life, right? I mean, what do you remember that is past 1,000 years ago? 1,000 years ago, what do you remember from anything that's even remotely truthful? I mean,
maybe the Bible.
Maybe, right? We don't know. Stories change.
It's the mystery of kind of like, it's this story, but it's like there's like questions unanswered here. That's, I think, what's kind of eating me alive, is like, well, again, I want to know, was this guy like, was he trying to make a contribution that he thought was good, I guess? And that should be the fulfillment, there, that he was doing that, and that should be enough. But or was it just kind of like, oh, I want to leave this impact that everyone remembers me by? But it makes me think too of just how important, again, all these physical possessions and things and awards, and how really it's the little things. It's having a kid, it's raising them to be, teaching them life lessons, it's the relationships that you have. Those are the things that I think actually are, and no one's ever going to know the impact that you had, but you're actually going to have a bigger impact for years and years that you're gone. The relationships and the things that you do, for the way you interact with people. So that's kind of my thoughts on it all, I guess.
I finally found the quote real fast. It was, if you weren't good enough before the gold medal, you won't be enough after it. You know what I mean? Like I translate that to values of, if David Starr Jordan didn't care, wasn't anchored in some purpose or values before he discovered a fifth of the world's fish at that time and categorized it, that he wasn't going to be good enough after it. Like, it was nothing was ever going to be good enough for the dude. As a matter of fact, the guy went on toward the end of the book. You guys ever heard of eugenics? The whole thing that like the Nazis did, like, we need to, the Aryan race is superior and yada, yada, yada. We need to breed for blah, blah, blah. Like, that was founded in eugenics, which I think came from like Nietzsche and shit like that. With that dude's a psycho. Anyway, long story short, David Starr Jordan was like the head of the eugenics labeling, force in the US. Like he became like the chairman of eugenics in the United States as well. This dude was obsessed with labeling and hierarchy and order. And I don't know, like, I think this is more of a, like, he had, the bigger question should be like, why are humans so obsessed with labeling and putting order to things and trying to always find a pattern
about everything?
Thinking fast and slow or something?
Yeah.
No, I don't think he did, actually. I don't think we ever touched on that. Trieu, what do you think? Why do you think humans are obsessed?
That's a great question.
Because it gives us a shortcut. Labeling gives us a shortcut, and our brains need to make decisions quickly. So a lot of times we create these patterns. The patterns, and they push it to the subconsciousness. And so we use that to make decisions quickly. So we label them just in case, you're in this category. Should I flee? Should I run? Or should I fight? Right? It's fight or flight. So
it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we label
it is a good thing, but that's because the genes that labels were able to survive longer, therefore carries on the gene. So that gene gets passed down. And so we human have that gene that likes to categorize things. That's the same thing we do with the, we basically trying to take some kind of things we don't know and trying to kind of squeeze it or stretch it into the bed of known things. That's the reason why we take the thing we don't know. We're trying to force it into, so we're trying to label it. So that way we can make some sense of it. So labeling and categorizing is a human need, a natural trait that we, as the inheritance of it, carry on, because that gene allow us to make decisions quickly so we don't get eaten by the lions.
Interesting. So you're bringing it back to kind of the way that we are just designed. Seeing that, I when you were explaining that, I was thinking like, wow, like people just want to go on autopilot. They don't want to try to understand people. They just want to put them in a bucket and say, and not take the time to, to me, it again.
It's the same reason you stereotype people.
And that's a terrible thing. Like the fact that I think it's a quick way to put them in a bucket to say, you think that we know what we don't know about them, and we don't want to take the time to understand them and something.
But that takes way too much energy.
I know, and that's it's true. But it's very sad that we do that, because
it is sad, but that's the reality.
Well,
so you have to.
I think it's sad.
No, it's not sad if you think about it. Like, you and I are having a conversation and are able to understand each other because of the language that we've labeled and are able to communicate back and forth. I mean, there is some very huge benefits to being able to label and to know what each person is talking about. However, I agree with you, Blake. I think we take it too far sometimes of, like, everything's got to be labeled, everything's got to have its place, everything's got to be organized, everything.
But
like,
imagine you debate
stuff.
every single decisions you have, and you don't use any of this heuristic, you won't do anything. Think
Yeah.
about it. Every single little thing. Should I brush my teeth or should I not brush my teeth? Should I, take a shower? Or should I not take a shower? You debate yourself all day long.
So there is value to labeling.
So the thing is, without the labeling, we would not be here today. So yes, it has its ugly side, but it is mostly good because it allows us to survive, allow us to talk about it today.
I think we've evolved as human beings in our brains, and I think we're relying on a old, Neanderthal, thing that I think it's causing the fact that we don't recognize it and try to do something different. I think, for instance, you look at people. Let's look at politics. Someone says, you try to throw someone in a bucket. You think you know who they are, think you know all about them, and you don't. People are more complex than that. And I think they
are. And that's the thing is, we tend to follow the crowd because regardless of what we think, we are a creature that is going to conserve as much energy as possible. Whenever there's a shortcut, we'll take it. Look at any design. We always take the path of least resistance.
You know what that does? You don't evolve when you do that. Evolution happens when you push yourself to do something that's uncomfortable. So it's like we're moving backwards as human beings.
No, that's not how evolution works.
That's how
evolution is whatever you do that's different and it allows you to survive. You can push it to something new, but if that is not a favorite thing and you die off early, then you become extinct. That set of elements, that set of feature become extinct.
Totally different topic here. Now you're talking about like Darwinism over here, right?
Evolution is Darwinism. What else is there?
You know what, Blake? I'm with you on the whole. I'd say my just general hot take right now on labeling is let's label the shit out of everything except for humans. Like, stop labeling each other. Like, I think that's what you're referring to. That gets really annoying because there's so many subtle nuances. I mean, I almost crack up sometimes about the whole like used to be just lesbian, bi, gay, and now it's like LGBTQ, whatever. But people think that's more and more inclusive. But I'm like, all you did was just add like 2 or 3 more categories. I mean, there's got to be an infinite number of people on a human sexuality scale. I mean, everyevery's different. Like, just because
you have added to have 5 categories, labels, you have to be, either you're straight, you're not, and then all the other letters in.
I mean, you would have an infinite number of letters in my world if you're going to label everybody the way that they should be labeled. So, Blake, to your point, I say don't label humans. Like, but we can label everything else.
That's a really interesting point. Yeah, you think it's more inclusive by doing that, but really it's like, aren't we more inclusive for all? You are whatever you are, but we're all humans. Why? Yeah, don't throw them in a bucket. Why don't we all say we're all the same and being human beings? And
Chris is Chris. Like, that's the way.
But the thing is, that is your system 2. System 2 is only whenever you load the information on a conscious level. Subconsciously, you inherit millions of years of conditioning. You always will put a bucket or container in something.
You don't Harry Potter. You don't think you could overpower that and change that?
Well, you can.
You have to use the system 2. It's like a habit. You force a habit, right? Your habit is system 1. It's your subconscious. So in order to change a habit, you have to consciously think about it. You think about it long enough, it will absorb into the system 1, the subconscious, and you become attuned to that.
You mean evolve?
No, it's not evolve. Evolve is Darwinism.
Have you not evolved as a human being?
We do, because the dumb people die off.
I think we have different take on what evolving means. But you know what?
Evolving is you have to pass on the gene for that design of the sequence of DNA, the blueprint passed on. And then the one that is slightly more advantageous for survival will overtake the resources, and the people who couldn't keep up will actually fall off.
Well, I agree with what you're saying.
All right, so bringing it back, let's wrap it up for the day. The good discussion. I guess the question that we can leave everybody listening to this would be, it's what's your purpose anchored on, and make sure you're always keeping that top of mind whenever you're, whatever your meaningful work is you're doing in this world. Make sure you're doing it because of, what you care about and who you, and your values, the way you want to live your life, not for some other, end goal, I guess, for other people. Fair enough. But anyway, but good chat. And yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds good.